everybody. This is the 1 Hour Photo Podcast by Studio C41, and I'm Bill Manning. This is the kickoff of the season. I am so pumped. We have so many new episodes that we are getting ready to start this season, and we have an incredible list of guests that are going to be coming on to the show, and I'm super pumped about the guests that we have on here because these gentlemen made an announcement couple years, no, not even like about a year ago, about a TV show photographing Georgia's beauty. The very cool thing about this is it's part of the Georgia Public Broadcast System, and this two photographers travel throughout Georgia capturing Georgia's beauty. And so I am incredibly honored to have Greer and Jason Clemmons on the show to tell us about the show, and what the big takeaways are out of this, and some really great entertainment that I'm really excited to watch, which is airing April 23rd, 4th.
April 23rd.
23rd. All right. So that's right around the corner. Man, that is super quick. So well, thank you guys for joining the show. I'm very excited for the conversation to have because both of your photography is just absolutely stunning. And I know we're going to have an amazing conversation about you guys as photographers. So we'll just go ahead and kick it off. Chris, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into photography, and then we'll jump over to Jason.
Absolutely. Well, Bill, thanks a lot for having us on. We're excited to be here to just talk about the show because we've put a lot of work into it over the past year, and it's very exciting for us for it to be premiering so soon. My photography started back when I was 12. My dad, who's been a photographer for most of his life, he gave me an old Pentax K1000, fully manual film. And so basically I was in the deep end immediately. I had to learn shutter speeds. I had to learn apertures. I had to learn what the ISO rating on the film was that I was putting in. And I took a lot of terrible pictures back then. And of course, as anybody who shoots film knows, you have to wait too to see how bad they were. But I learned a lot. And so it created a nice foundation for me. And I think my photography and my interest in photography, it's always been there, but it's also kind of ebbed and flowed over the years as I went through high school and college and beyond. I had other interests, other commitments, other responsibilities, and I didn't really focus on photography as much as maybe I wanted to. And then things started to change. Digital came out, and I bought a cheap digital camera. Actually, by today's standards, it would have been a pretty expensive digital camera for what it could do. It was 1 megapixel. There's a Kodak, but it was pretty incredible to see the results on the screen immediately. And so I just kind of dabbled with digital over the years, and I still shot film as well. And then back in 2015, I was selected as an Apple Distinguished Educator, and I spent a lot of time with Apple. And they tasked me with doing a project in my community that merged educational, basically technology and education. And so I kind of went a little bigger than just Milledgeville, which is where I'm a professor, Georgia College down in Milledgeville. And so I went to the state level and reached out to the Department of Natural Resources and told them I wanted to do a digital textbook on the state parks of Georgia that could be used by teachers and students throughout the state for education so that they could learn about science and history through the park system in Georgia so it's more relatable. And so that all got approved, and I wanted the book to really be beautiful. I wanted it to have lots of photos, and I wanted it to have lots of video, interviews with the park rangers, visuals of the parks themselves. And so I bought a drone, and that really opened my eyes to another type of photography that was pure science fiction back in the day. And so flying that drone around and taking pictures, it was amazing what all of these places looked like from the air. And so I started an Instagram account, and I just started kind of posting up some photos, some of my aerial shots from these different parks. And just FYI, I had special permission to fly in the parks because you're not allowed to have a drone in the parks. And so when I was posting those, it was kind of in the beginning stages of decent drone photography where you actually had access to RAW files. And so people were pretty intrigued, to say the least. They were seeing things that they'd never seen before because just the way you can fly that around and take pictures. And so I kind of built a following on Instagram, primarily from being a drone photographer. In fact, my Instagram handle was Up Above Georgia back then. And
cool.
yeah, so I won't get into how Jason and I met, but that did lead to meeting Jason eventually. After I did the drone thing for a while, I started to get kind of tired of it. I like the intimacy of traditional photography more because I'm in the landscape instead of just flying around above the landscape. And so I've really gravitated back to traditional photography over the past probably 3 years. And now it's very rare that I take a photo with my drone. I still do it from time to time because of conditions or the accessibility of the location. Sometimes it just almost demands a drone shot, but most of the time it's with a traditional camera now.
That's cool. Yeah, I got into drone for a little bit, and then it wasn't until I lost control of it and flew it into a waterfall. And I recovered it.
Good.
It still works perfectly fine
Wow.
and everything, and I was just totally blown by it. But that was probably the most nerve-wracking moment, and so now my wife gives me a hard time. She's like, "You got this amazing drone. Yeah. You don't do anything." And I'm like, I'm terrified now. Like, I know I can go in the backyard and practice and all that stuff, but like when it's like a mile away, like that is a totally different ball game. And then absolutely, there's definitely some responsibility that comes around with that. Mm-hmm. And, you have to be very conscious about the laws. Like in national parks is a big no-no. And when that does happen, they make you an example. They'll throw the book at you, just so that people know that they don't play around. So there is a lot of responsibility around it, and I have a huge respect for those that do it right, because I think it is very important. So very cool. Well, Chris, thanks for telling us a little bit about yourself. Sure. Let's jump over to Jason. So tell us a little bit about yourself, man. How'd you get into photography?
Well, I'm a late bloomer. I didn't start photography till about 7 years ago. I got married to my wife, Jessica, and we were planning a honeymoon to Glacier National Park. And I always had an interest, but for whatever reason, I never really got into it. But so before we went out to Glacier, I bought a camera, and I had no idea what aperture was, shutter speed, like totally blank. And I only got it probably a couple weeks before we went to Glacier, so I really didn't have time to play with it. And so went to Glacier, and I came back with thousands of photos, and I was just kind of really happy with the composition. I pretty much shot everything in automatic. I shot everything in JPEG, so I can't edit these things as well as I'd like to. But compositionally, I was, it got me wanting to do more. And so I just kind of dove into it, and it's just been kind of like wide open since. It was just like a learning process. But I own a store here in Blairsville, and so I kind of started using it as advertising for it. We sell general merchandise like jams and jellies and local goods and stuff. And so if I posted a picture of like peach preserves, it would get like 3 likes, but if I went out and got a sunrise and posted it, then it would get shared and, hundreds of likes. And then I would occasionally toss in like the peach preserves or whatever. So then I just started getting this following locally, and then people started wanting to buy images, and I've had a huge support from local businesses and stuff. And probably my biggest feather in my cap is I do have a image at the Atlanta airport. It's like a 24-foot by 8-foot mural of Vogel State Park. Wow. And so that kind of accelerated everything and kind of turned it into a little business. And here we are. So
that's really cool. Well, it's kind of funny. I feel like you and I might be kindred spirits, because my intro to photography was about 12 years ago, and that was for my honeymoon trip, and we did 3 weeks in Europe.
Oh wow!
And it was one of those, like, I knew, like, I was dabbling with photography, and I didn't really have my first DSLR until that trip, so I knew practically nothing going into it. But it's kind of funny because I look at those images, and they're great images, and like they're special to me, but like I didn't know much about composition and all that stuff. So like I look at this, I'm like, gosh, I've really come so far from these images, and like a little bit of it is just kind of chipping away at me, going, I really need to go back, and like I want to rephotograph so much of that, knowing what I know now after 12 years is I'm chomping at the bit to go back to Europe, because that was practically the last time. So it's really cool that you got into it, and you're right, those images are special, and to have them in a very high quality. And I kind of feel like a lot of people get into photography that way, like just it's a very special moment. They recognize there needs to be good quality that goes behind it. So, and then after that, it's just history, right? We just get sucked right in, and lenses and gear, and
you go down that rabbit hole, and you just can't stop.
Yeah. So, well, cool. So, how did the stars align for you guys? Like, how did you guys end up meeting, and like, how did this Viewfinders TV become an idea?
Well, we met years ago through Instagram, actually. As much as I bemoan Instagram, and a lot of photographers do, it does have a purpose and a value sometimes, and it has connected me with some great people, and Jason is certainly one of them. He's got Sunrise Grocery. My wife and I have a cabin that's probably 3 miles down the road from it. And so I would be up there taking pictures pretty frequently and posting them. And at some point we connected because he was doing the same thing. I think maybe he commented on one of mine, and we just kind of struck up a little conversation, and he told me that he owns a Sunrise and to stop in at some point. And I remember saying back to him, I've met you before because I've been in Sunrise so many times because it's so close to the cabin. So, pretty cool. Definitely a small world. And so the next time I was up in the mountains, I stopped in, and we just started chatting photography. And I think, as any like dedicated photographer knows, once you have somebody else that likes to talk about photography, you can just talk and talk and talk. I mean, like, the conversations can just go in so many directions, and that's kind of what happened with us.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's so funny too, because one of the things that I find very important for me, the Instagram feed that I have for myself, people that are messaging me, I try my very best to kind of interact with everybody as much as possible, and I have generated so many great friendships out of it. And I completely agree. We can go on about the direction of Instagram and all that kind of stuff, but I completely agree. The friendships that, and a lot of these people are people from around the world that I've never met, but for some reason they feel like true friends, because we can get on and talk about anything photography. And my wife will get on to me. It's like, it's 2 a.m. Do you really need to be talking to somebody in Japan about photography? I'm like, absolutely.
I'm really fond of Instagram. I met my wife through Instagram. So.
So he's got even more reason to like it.
Yeah.
There you go.
It's been good to me.
So let's hear a little bit about the style of photography. So so I know you were talking, Jason, about sunrises and stuff like that. And it certainly has grown with Viewfinders TV and all that stuff. Like, tell us a little bit about like the landscape stuff and everything. what does it mean to you to be like a landscape photographer?
Landscape it's one of those things. It's kind of like there's so many things. There's the piece of it, you get out in the woods and you're hiking with, your spouse or friend or whoever it may be. And especially if you wake up with an early alarm and you go out and see like an epic sunrise, or, you get to a waterfall before anyone else. I mean, it will move me. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I mean, I've choked up in places I've been. And, so I think that's the connection for me. It's just being out in it. It's much different than like I could never be like a wedding photographer, or, it's just high stress. And, I like throwing a tripod on the ground, even if I don't need it, and just dialing in the composition and taking my time. And, it also makes you, I was just talking to Chris about this not too long ago. It makes you notice everything. Like I just went to the Smokies and we got along the Pigeon River, and you pay attention to the texture of the bark on a tree and how the roots go away from the tree, how the rocks are set up along the into the river, where's the river pointing. And so anybody that would walk up to where that spot was would sit there and think like, wow, this is pretty. But they don't absorb themselves into the texture of the tree and where the roots line up. So I think it really dials you into your surroundings more. And I think that's the addiction for me with landscape photography, is just it really makes you pay attention to what's around you, and it really makes you notice just how pretty things are.
And I'll add in too, just with what Jason was saying, I think, we hit it off and started talking photography, and we planned a hike. And Jason, we went to a waterfall neither of us really knew, right? It was our first hike.
Right. We both were aware of it. And you had stopped in that day and was talking about taking your drone up to see that waterfall. And just recently, Jessica and I had, we knew the people where that little side trail that led to it, they gave us permission to use it. And so we went to look at it. So that's kind of like, oh man, let's go shoot that. And so that was our first trip we took in to, shoot together.
Yeah, it was very memorable.
We named that waterfall.
Yeah, we did.
Also.
We ended up naming it because it's on a map, or it was, you could see it on a topographic map, but it had no name. So we actually, we filled out an application to name it and sent it in to the U.S. Geological Society, or I can't even remember which one. It's in Washington, D.C. It's in charge of naming all types of features, and we named that waterfall. It's called,
cool.
We called it High Water Falls. It actually flows off of Blood Mountain.
Oh, wow.
If I remember correctly. Yeah, up above DeSoto Falls. So,
dang, not many people do
that.
I know. Name a waterfall. That's so cool.
We kind of started out strong there by naming a waterfall, but just to reiterate what Jason said, like I love landscape for the exact same reasons. I think that's why we hit it off so well, and why we've spent so much time hiking and taking photos together, because we feel the same way when we're at a location. We love to just be immersed and soak it in and look for a composition and really study the layout and look for something interesting and unique, and just truly be kind of one with nature for a period of time. And we've had a lot of great hikes, and we've also traveled to quite a few locations over the years to take photos, and that ended up leading to our YouTube channel, which was kind of like the beginning of what led to the TV show. We wanted to kind of take an audience along with us to appreciate some of these gorgeous locations that we go and spend time at.
Oh, fantastic. Well, for the audience, and we'll dive into the show. I know it's GPTV, but we'll certainly, what's the YouTube channel?
We started a YouTube several years ago, maybe two and a half years ago, back then it was called Appalachian Apertures. We've since renamed it because we went to the TV show, we started a production company, like just different things changed. But our whole premise was he and I were going to go to locations and he would shoot his episode and I would shoot my episode a lot of times at the same time. And the audience would see two different perspectives at the same spot. And we felt like that really kind of reinforced the beauty of photography, in that you can get two photographers literally at the same location at the same time who come away with very different looking photographs. And so a lot of our episodes kind of aligned with that. We also did some individual ones too, just to showcase different parts of the state. If I was down, I live in Athens, so shooting the Piedmont, or if I traveled down to the coast or something. But quite a few of our episodes we filmed together, which was pretty cool.
Oh, that's cool. It's kind of funny, that was literally going to be one of the questions that I asked. That the two of you guys together, like, is there ever a concern that you guys are going to have like the same shot? Because a lot of people talk about that. My wife just got into photography as well, and so we were at Tybee Island just a couple weeks ago, and so and I was lugging my big 4x5 with me and everything, but my wife was really concerned. She's like, well, what if I get the same shot as you? I'm like, so? Like, I promise you it's going to be so different.
Yeah.
And I think that's the kind of the cool part about, my 4x5 is a very methodical, framed out, and like it's one shot. And,
right.
She's running around with her Canon 35 where, there was a pigeon that like had flown down right under the pier. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't have my holder ready to go. And I know if I move the pigeon's going to fly away. And it was just like this beautiful, and my wife just really quietly went, click. I was like, see, my point yeah. Exactly. You got this. And I did it. And you know what? I'm okay with that. And I'm so happy. And it came out fantastic for her. And I'm super, super happy for her. So yeah, absolutely. That's really cool that, two photographers see the world differently. Something can be presented in front of you and have two totally different perceptions of the world.
I can learn from Chris. I mean, he's a great photographer. And, so when I see him lining up and he's like, we're talking about what we're seeing. And so it's seeing a photo in live in real time through his eyes, and, composition is to me that's just what I like. It's the challenge. And, I think once you think like you can't learn from somebody or you're better or whatever, you've plateaued. And so I enjoy, shooting with Chris and seeing what he shoots. And when we go to the same location, we try to be different. Like there's one part of the episode where we touch on like, I had a composition that, not that I found it, but I set up on it that Chris liked, but he ventured out and got another great image. But usually we get different stuff. We do shoot different. We have slightly different editing styles. But he's so I'm all for learning, and I can definitely learn from Chris.
I think that's something that's really nice, not only about the TV show, but just the years we've spent together taking photos, in that, we go to these places together and I'll just kind of stand off and watch Jason set up, and then I'll just come over and take a look at the back of his camera, and every once in a while I'll just be like, hey, I'm just going to steal this because it's really good. I'll shamelessly just take that composition because it's such a great one. But Jason is very good at finding compositions, and sometimes really unique ones that I don't see. And I see them in his episodes on YouTube, and I see him when we filmed the TV show. But I remember, I think it was episode 3, we were down in the Apalachicola Bay, and there's a great composition there that he had set up on, and it's a fantastic shot. And I told him in the episode, you'll see it. I'm like, you have the stronger composition here. It's a great shot. So we learn from each other and push each other to get better. And I think that's a great thing about photography. Even the masters, they're always trying to get better, and they have times where they just fall flat on their face and they don't get a good image, and that's okay. I think that happens to truly every photographer, no matter how accomplished you are.
Yeah, because we all have that internal voice where we're like, you know, when I see Chris's composition, I'm like, crap, man, I wish that was mine. But how it lines up, you know, sets some rocks up in front of a waterfall or something. But yeah, it's been good and healthy for my photography.
That's awesome. Yeah, I completely agree. Photographer Clyde Butcher in Florida, most well known for capturing the Everglades. We've had conversations where he said there have been days where he went out and had a great composition, but the clouds were not right, and he didn't shoot anything. He just said it was not worth taking the image, and like there have been plenty of days where he just walked away not taking a single image. And like for me, it's just kind of like, man, that is intense. Like for me, at least I would like go, let me take one at least, like at least make this trip worth it or something like that. And he's like, nope, not even interested in photographing. If it's not right, it's not right. And I'm like, man, that's some dedication to the craft right there. Because I know for sure I would just like click. All right, let's go. So, yeah.
Well, that's the difference with Jason and I too. Jason shoots a lot less than I do. So he's really purposeful, and he waits until he sees something he really likes. And so a lot of times we'll finish at a location and I'll have taken quite a few more images than he did, because he really wants to wait until he finds something that he really likes. And I'll shoot a bunch that I'm like, this might be okay. But a lot of times they're not. But I'll take it anyway because I'm there. That's kind of like my thought behind it. So I don't know if one is right and one is wrong. I think it really just depends on the photographer and kind of what they're envisioning and wanting to come away with from the location.
Yeah, sometimes I do regret, you know, because I am a low volume shooter. If I don't see something that like really kind of like gets me moving, I just can't pull the camera out. And but then when I get back to editing, I'll pull up an image that reminds me of something that I might have passed up. I'm like, man, I wish I would have just shot it so I could at least just have something to give it a shot anyway. You know, if I pull it up on the screen and it looks different, but it's just how I am in the field. I'm just a pretty low volume shooter.
Yeah, really cool. Well, let's pivot into talking about the show a little bit, because I'm really excited about this, because really, there really aren't any photography related TV shows that I can think of right off the top of my head. I mean, there's a ton of YouTube channels, but I'm talking like, you know, traditional television. There really hasn't been much around it. And so when you guys made the announcement on this, I got really excited because not only is it in Georgia, and we're, you know, you guys are discovering places throughout Georgia and talking about so many locations. It's a show that I can certainly relate to as well, right? And so I really gravitated to the project that you were guys working on, and I have to say I am super impressed to see the progression from like this idea to, you know, getting sponsors, and then actually, you know, booking a deal with Georgia Public Broadcast. I mean, like, it was kind of like along the ride with you guys and just kind of watching everything, you know, your growth, and it's been amazing. So let's talk about Viewfinders TV. But before we do that, here is a small trailer of that show.
Got over 4,000 miles of designated trout water. That's almost unheard of.
If you go someplace dark, like the Okefenokee Swamp, and you look up, you'll be amazed how many more stars there are.
The city of Atlanta could not exist without this river here.
So where are we going now, Jason?
So we're just going north.
Okay.
Actually,
we're going to go south on the AT.
All right, so we're lost.
Yes.
Our primary reason for existence is to maintain the Georgia Appalachian Trail.
The world's longest urban whitewater, right here in Clemons.
When you take that ferry over from St. Mary's to Cumberland Island, you're entering a different world.
We are responsible stewards now of this natural resource so that the future generations can continue to benefit.
All right, so that was a really cool trailer, guys. Tell me a little bit about, the idea of where this came from, and let's dive into the first episode, and let's get the listeners and viewers a little bit of what the show is about.
Yeah, well, it's certainly about a year and a half ago, it wasn't on my radar whatsoever. We were doing the YouTube thing and enjoying it, but I'd say it was about last February, maybe, or January, February, something right around in there.
Cold.
Yeah, it was cold. Jason and I were like, we're going to do one on the AT, foggy day, really cold. Is up near Hogpen Gap, actually, for any listeners that are familiar with that. And so we filmed a YouTube episode, and I was chilled to my core. I was so cold. We got back in the car. We were talking about it, and it was fun. I was miserable at the end because I was so cold, but it's one of those days where you remember it because something really big happened or different happened. I remember the cold of that day. And so he dropped me back off at my cabin. And so I went inside and turned on the fire, and I poured a relatively tall glass of bourbon to try to warm my inner core back up. And I turned on the TV, and it just went right to Georgia Outdoors, which was playing on PBS. And that has been a stalwart on GPB really for a long time. Yeah. It's been around for years and years. I've watched almost every episode because it's given me ideas of places to travel and photograph. And so I think as the bourbon kind of settled in and my temperature came back to, something a little more comfortable, I started to have this thought like, you know what, we're doing this YouTube thing and we're trying to show how beautiful these places are through the lenses of our cameras. That could maybe be a TV show. And so the more I thought about it, the more I thought it really had potential because, as you've said, there's really nothing like it. I mean, I love photography. Jason loves photography. We watch all of the, big YouTube channels like Thomas Heaton. And so we enjoy watching photography, and it doesn't really have anything on broadcast TV or even on Netflix and Hulu. There was one show on Netflix for a while. I think it was called Chasing Light or something, but it didn't last long. So I called Jason. And I'm like, I got this idea. And I told him about it. And he was like, I could tell he was like, that's really intriguing. That's got, like, if we could pull this off, that would be super cool. And so I had previously done some work with GPB Education on doing virtual reality field trips because my, I guess, quote unquote day job, I'm a professor down at Georgia College. I'm in the College of Education, but I specialize in educational technology. So I was creating these virtual reality field trips that GPB ended up putting on their education website for teachers and students to like visit Cumberland virtually through like VR goggles.
Oh, cool.
And so I already had a contact there. And so I reached out to her and I said, I've got an idea for a TV show. Is there somebody I could talk to? And so a couple of days passed and I heard back, and she basically set something up with her and the vice president of programming, just a Zoom call. And I pitched the idea. I said, Jason and I want to do 30-minute episodes of beautiful locations all over Georgia where it'll be part outdoor adventure, part education, part, just travel and seeing new places, and then also photography. And we'll also talk about photography, not in real technical terms where we might lose the audience because most of the audience doesn't care much about apertures, but composition and things they might be able to do just with their phones to take better pictures. we thought that could have broad appeal because everybody has a pretty decent camera now in their pocket. And so my goal for that pitch was for them to just say, okay, this sounds intriguing, bring us a sample episode. But they really liked it, and they thought it was fresh. And so they said, bring us a short season, which was 4 to 5 episodes. And that's what got the ball rolling. It all changed that afternoon because we realized we had a place to show these episodes. And so now we needed to start the process of filming them and creating them and finding sponsors and all of the things that come with producing a TV show that, quite frankly, I knew nothing about, and neither did Jason. And so we just kind of had to learn it all as we went. So it's been a crazy year, a lot of work, tremendous amount of work. But we're really excited for what we've created.
It started like Chris said, then it was just like one domino fell after another. It was crazy. We've been very blessed and like just from support from the sponsors to just instead of getting the opportunity to hand them a pilot, they tell us to give them 4 to 5 episodes. So it's just crazy how things fell for us. I mean, we're very, very fortunate.
Well, how did so the sponsorship? There's a lot of photographers out there. There's a lot of great ideas out there that just never come to fruition because, as you guys had mentioned, Chris, it's a lot of unknowns. And so, but you guys took it on yourselves to navigate that. What was that process like? I mean, were there grants involved? The sponsorships, I'd like to hear, who backed you up on that, like let's give them an opportunity to, really, showcase you guys. So, I mean, how did all that come to fruition?
Well, Chris, actually got an opportunity with, REI to lead a workshop, like an online workshop. And, then why this was like going on had nothing to do with the Viewfinder show. Mm-hmm. And, so behind the scenes, like him and I were talking, like, this would be a good opportunity because he invited me to be a part of the online workshop. And so that's where we got our foot in the door with REI. And, Chris, asked them, then, it went through the process, and then all of a sudden we land REI, which was just like, what?
That's huge. Yeah.
To their credit, and really to all the sponsors' credit, we had no episode to show them. I think traditionally you've already created a pilot episode that you then use to get your foot in the door to make more. We had the idea, we had the footage we had shot for our YouTube channel, which I just kind of cut together into a montage with some kind of cool music. And that's what we had to sell them on. And so we're very appreciative of the 4 sponsors for the show because they kind of took a risk on us. They didn't really quite know what the show was going to look like because we couldn't show them, but they were willing to invest in it. And also it was kind of problematic because this isn't something we know much about, but there's these, budget years. They were having to make an investment in 2021, but not really see much of a return on that until 2022. And so that was a complicating factor on their end. But they all made it happen. And the show is much stronger because of it, really because it helped fund the purchase of some really great equipment that allowed the show to look really, really nice. And so, yeah, I'll name them. It's REI, it's Troncalli Subaru. They also provided us with a wrapped Subaru Outback, which is super cool. It's like you'll see it all over the episodes. They definitely got good return on their investment with that. And then also Explore Georgia, which is, the state tourism department. And so I think it's a great fit for them. And then Terrapin Beer Company, which was really interesting because that was really pushing what GPB traditionally does. Like there was a lot of conversations about a beer company sponsoring a TV show that was going to air on GPB. And fortunately, it's all been fine, but we've definitely pushed the boundaries of what GPB has aired in the past with this show. And we're hoping it's a good thing. It pays off because they did make comments about younger demographics and looking for new audiences and things of that nature. And we really do hope that this show will help with those goals that they have.
And two, GPB or PBS, like I wouldn't pick a better place to be. You know, I mean, it's so long lasting and respected, and like Chris and I have talked, like I wouldn't mind a bit if we just stay there. You know, I mean, whatever happens, but it's so respected, and especially in kind of our field of arts or whatever, and nature. So yeah, it's been a very humbling experience.
I will follow up. You had asked about grants. We did not do any grant applications for this. We were willing to just self-fund the entire production just because it was such a fantastic opportunity. And we could have done that. Like, there's no requirement that you get sponsors when you air something on GPB. But as we learned pretty quickly, costs grow. Like, you don't even anticipate some of your costs just from permit applications, travel, all
gear.
Types of expenditures on gear. Now on the backside of things, having a website created, having motion graphics created for the episodes, having the audio mix done for us, because I'm not an audio engineer, but there's pretty strict audio guidelines for broadcast TV so that you don't have that problem with the screaming car commercial, you know, where you have to turn the volume down on your TV. Like that,
Right.
That doesn't fly on GPB. So there were a lot of different things that came into play. And then I don't know if you were going to ask about this, but I'll touch on it right now. The show is very much music based too. There's a whole music side to this show that we weren't necessarily thinking about from the outset, but really started to evolve when we got into the editing side of things. And so we're real excited about the music side of things, but that also involves some costs as well. So we're very appreciative of the sponsors for this season.
Yeah, my gear, I wasn't set up. I had the Canon 5 DSR beforehand, which is pretty much, I mean, it's an amazing still landscape photography camera. But I just didn't have, it's not good for video. So we shot everything at 4K. And so, you know, I had to upgrade to the R5, and Chris is a Sony shooter. But then you had to get all the new lenses and stuff. So our gear bill was expensive. So
to say the least. Plus, we got a nicer drone, and we got audio recording, and so f-stop, which makes great camera bags. They gave us camera bags, which is wonderful. So we did get some support here and there, but we still had some significant costs before we even really started filming the show. But we saw it as a kind of upfront investment to ensure high quality. And so we wanted to be able to film it in as cinematic a way as we could, so that people could just see how beautiful Georgia is. And so that was one of our big goals for the show, is to just make Georgia pop off the screen with its beauty.
Well, let's talk about the first episode. I'm really curious to hear about the locations, why you guys picked the locations that you selected for the season, and what were some of the reasons, and like why did you choose that place?
The locations were fun. I remember Jason and I just day after day talking on the phone and texting back and forth, just shooting off ideas. But I'll let Jason talk about the first one because it's one of his favorite places, and mine too. But we both have a personal connection to the first episode.
So Chris knows, like, I'm a woodland guy. I mean, if I could pick one aspect, that's what I love is the woods and trees and stuff. And he had been to the first episode is Cumberland Island, And for those that's never been, for the trees, I mean, I'd put it against the redwoods or any iconic forest. I mean, it is just stunning. And so Chris had been there before, and while I was shooting together, he knew that I loved the trees, so he's like, "Man, you got to go here." So we made the trip happen. We booked a ferry over. We roll in at about 12, and we start setting up our tent. And out of nowhere, this fog starts rolling in at 12:30 in the afternoon, and there's like inside the what do you call the underbrush of the
maritime
trees.
Forest. Oh, the understory. Yeah.
Well, you kind of walk through it to all your little campsites. You know, you kind of so once we set up camp, we walked out of our campsite and we literally shot that path for like an hour because the trees were kind of encased in fog. And I mean, it was definitely beginner's luck for me, but it's these, all these gnarly live oak trees with the moss and ferns growing in them. And it has wild horses. It's got a beach. It's got estuaries. I mean, it's got ruins. It is truly, I mean, I guess it's not too much under the radar, but I don't think a lot of people in Georgia just know how amazing that place is. I mean, it's truly stunning.
And that was when we were back filming our YouTube episode. So that magical fog happened, and we each put together a great YouTube episode, and I got some portfolio shots on that trip. I have one hanging in the Savannah airport, actually, that I got on that trip.
Wow.
But so when we started brainstorming like locations to film during the first season, we were both like, it's got to be Cumberland. Like, we got to go to Cumberland. We both love it so much. And so we ended up going a total of 3 times to Cumberland to make episode 1. Jason made a trip in the summer with his wife, and then he and I went in May, and then we went again in December. So we got it at different times of the year, different conditions. It's such a beautiful place. And I'll just say this now. Cumberland is part of the National Park System. We did get some great aerial footage, but in order to do that legally, we had to charter a boat. And so all the aerial footage was shot from offshore, taking off and landing from the boat. But the aerial footage of Cumberland, I think, adds to the episode just a little bit more, because not too many people have seen it from the air, and the marsh there from the air. So it just a little bit more of a unique and interesting part of the episode are the aerial shots.
That's really cool. I'm going to get so much value out of that episode, because I'm actually got booked a campsite at Cumberland in the next couple weeks. So just the timing of it is just like perfect. So because I'm going through the decisions of the kind of gear that I want to take with it, because I mean, I got my big 8x10 back there. I don't even know if I want to even take my 8x10 for it, because it's just like that's really taxing, so I'm trying to go through my mind and try to make the decisions that I want to make to go and photograph it. And there's something that's been sitting in my head about photographing the Milky Way out there. I know it's a low light area, and it's great for sky watching. So I have been thinking about doing something a little different, where I got a super wide angle on my medium format, but get a star tracker and actually track the entire Milky Way for a couple hours on some
cool
Hectar 100. So I don't know. We'll see. I am becoming more careful with what I tell people about certain shots, because if it doesn't come out, like I have this amazing shot of the pier at Tybee, and I had just got this new camera, and before I even took it, I was like, I'm going to do a test roll on it, and I shot the test roll. Everything worked great on it, and then got down to Tybee, And I ran the first roll, and I was like, all right, we're good. And then and I pop in the next roll, and then the shot called for like a 2-second exposure, and I went to do it, and I didn't hear the leaf shutter click after 2 seconds. I was like, uh-oh, something didn't happen right. And I went, got back, processed it all, and so like this one over the view camera shot has like over 2,000 likes on it on Instagram. Like, I was like, crap, I got to deliver on this. I hope this came out right, and then and it didn't. Yeah. And I'm like, dang. But here's the thing though, like those types of instances, at least I know as somebody for me that's been shooting film for so many years now, that these things still happen. And, for pleasure and enjoyment of my photography, it's like, it is what it is. It's Tybee Island. It'll still be there, hopefully, for a good while. So I know I can at least go back and rephotograph it if I ever want to. But there were some images, like the 4x5 came out fantastic. I'm very happy with it. So it wasn't like a complete total loss. So, that's just the kind of the game that you play with film, that you might lose it. And even then with digital, you have memory cards. They can get corrupt,
or you just forget them.
Oh yeah, there you go. Even worse.
I've done that.
Yeah.
Well, we think you'll probably like the first episode because we did some astrophotography in that episode. We won't spoil what happened, but it was certainly a memorable night. Actually, it was a super early morning. It'd be more accurate with that.
Yeah. I don't know how you guys do it with these sunrises, because I like my sleep.
It's one of those things I hate getting out of bed as much as anybody, but I guarantee you and promise you, you get out there and there won't be one fiber in you that wish you'd have stayed in bed. Even if it fails, it's just, that's what I always tell people at the store, like, oh, I couldn't do that. And it's like, it's not like I get out of bed like skipping. It's like I want to hit snooze and I'm like, it's probably going to be cloudy anyway, or, but one of my most successful images that I've ever taken was actually I've shot probably 4 mornings in a row at getting up at like 4:30, 5 o'clock. And this last day it was supposed to be cloudy, and the alarm went off and I hit snooze and I laid there and I was like, I'm not going out. But I laid there for 15 minutes and it just was like my brain wouldn't go off. So I just got up and went out, and I got probably definitely my best selling image that I've ever got. So
that's really cool. Yeah, you got to fight that. You got to fight that voice that is in your head that says it's not worth it. Because I've had that exact same experience where I was in Jackson Hole and it was raining, and I remember we had the alarm set. We're sitting there. I'm like, it's raining. It's not even worth it, And we were going to go to TA Molten Barn, and I said, let's drive out there. It's 30 minutes away, but worst case scenario, we don't take any pictures. We got to see it, whatever. So we got out there and it had stopped raining, and I got out there and I just started setting up the tripod. It was on 4x5, and I had metered everything out and put this film holder in, and I was just kind of waiting it out, and it was like 30 minutes, and I was like, all right, I'm going to pull the plug on this. Nothing's happening. And literally as I was getting ready to pull the film holder out, I look up and the clouds had broke for literally just a second. And then the highlights just hit the barn just like so perfectly. It was just like the heavens opened. There it is. And so I was like, oh my God, pulled it out, capture shot, did a backup, and it was all on slide. And I was just, kind of estimated with what my exposure was at that point, because it was all in shadow. I was like, crap, I might not even they might be completely blown out. I don't know. So, and I reached down to grab my digital camera for the backup shot. And by the time I brought that camera up to my eye, it was gone. And then I was just waiting for just a few more minutes, and I was like, it's not happening now. Like it gave me what it gave me, and that's it for today. And so when I got back to the lab, I was processing it, and I remember I pulled it out of the drum, and I just remember I go, "Oh my god!" And the lab Michael over at Dunwoody Photo comes running in. He's like, "What happened? What happened?" He thought something happened, and I'm holding the slide in my hand, still sopping wet, and going, "It's beautiful!" And so he's like, "Dude, man, you scared me. I thought something bad happened." And I was like, "Dude, this is the most." Dude, like pulling a 4x5 slide out of a tank is like one of the most, like, just having everything just kind of line up for that moment, and like, you know, it was just an incredible experience. So it was absolutely worth it. I completely agree with you, Jason. Like, you got to fight that voice in your head saying that, you know, get out of bed, you know.
And I think another thing that's really special about the mornings, and why I like sunrises more than sunsets, is in the early morning hours, you usually have it all to yourself. The world is quiet. There's very few people out. There's very few cars in the distance. At sunset, it's a different story most of the time. So those early mornings, even though, you pay the penalty with your sleep, that kind of peace and tranquility you get out in the world before everybody else is waking up is worth it for me.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And I remember having that kind of experience out on Tybee, where it was peaceful. And then by 8:30 rolled around, like there were people already coming there to, you know, lay out towels and stuff like that. I was
Very
like, all
true.
right, it's over.
Yeah, our first big kind of hike was we did Blood at about 3:30 in the morning. And it took us about 2 hours to get up there. And then, you know, he left us enough time to kind of wander around and find places. And both of it is kind of a weird time, because I don't think, because Blood really doesn't have a good sunrise vantage point. Yeah. It's all side light. And and I just kind of came away with like nothing, like, man, this is going to be amazing. And I think Chris kind of felt the same way, but we ended up he came away with an image that really did well for him and got on his book too, right?
Yeah, it's been my most popular image of all time was from that hike, and I did not think I had gotten it when I was there.
Well, that's really cool. And I know the earliest I've ever done was getting up to the top of Brasstown Bald for sunrise pictures. And I'll admit, because I don't do middle of the night hikes. I'm definitely tourist time zone. You know, it is a different vibe hiking on a trail. And even Brasstown Bald is a well-traveled trail. It was a totally different vibe doing it at that time of night, but just being up at the top, the highest point in Georgia, and photographing sunrise, it's a religious moment. I think we can kind of all agree that peace and tranquility can certainly be a very religious and very personal moment for us. So, well, really cool. You know, guys, I am just absolutely blown away. I'm very excited to hear that was just one episode, and I'm so excited to be able to see the story being told through these episodes, and I'm very excited for you guys. And my sincere congratulations to you for a very successful job. So, do you think there might be a season 2?
It's looking like there's a season 2. Jason unfortunately had to have a knee surgery. Hopefully not from some of the adventures we were on season 1. I think it was probably a long time coming. So he's healing up from that right now, but we are in the kind of pre-production stage for season 2. We're looking at late summer, fall to start filming those episodes. And we're looking for the season to be a full season, so 8 to 10. And we're also looking to go outside of Georgia and turn it into more of a Southeast TV show where we hit up some great spots in the Carolinas, maybe in Tennessee or down in Florida. So yeah, we continue to have ambitions for the show, and Jason's had some good ideas for some spots to maybe check out. So yeah, it's underway.
Awesome. Well, I'm very much looking forward to it, gentlemen. Where can we find your Instagram individually and Viewfinders? And for those that are in Georgia, when can they watch Viewfinders TV? And are there any options for anybody outside of the state as well? So I'll let you guys have the floor.
Yeah, so my Instagram is at Chris Greer Photography. The TV show Instagram is at Viewfinders TV. And those in Georgia, it'll be on PBS, it'll be on or GPB, it'll be on their website. For those outside of Georgia, it should be streamable from the PBS national website. So if they go to the GPB website, Jason has been hearing from some people outside of the state that it's making them log in. But I watched a couple of the trailers from Florida last week, and I did that through the PBS national website. So we can provide the link for that. But I think anybody in the United States will be able to watch it from there.
I go by JMC Artistic Photography on Facebook, Instagram, and I need to be more active on Instagram. I don't get a lot of traction there. But I got a pretty good Facebook page. And also I post some images if it's really local under Sunrise Grocery Facebook page. I'll post like Vogel State Park or Helton Creek or some images there, just for the locals. And, but yeah, one thing I do want to throw out there, Chris did this show, edited this show himself, and without a lot of video editing and under his belt, man, it's I've seen all the episodes and it's beautiful. So very excited for it to get, for the people to see it, and because it's one of those things, like there's a lot of people that can't travel, whether it's due to health or funds or whatever so it's like it's nice to be able to show these people like that, all these different locations. And one of the hidden gems of the show is how Georgia is going to be showcased, because people don't think of it as, unless you live in that region, but just how beautiful the coast is. The Georgia has the Okefenokee Swamp, which is one of the most vital swamp areas in the United States. Then we touch on the Chattahoochee River, which is the main water source for Georgia. Then of course we go to Blood Mountain, which is the highest point on the Appalachian Trail. So there's 5. We do 2 episodes on Chattahoochee River, so it's 5 icons of the state that really just shows, and it opened my eyes, to be honest. It because I'm a mountain guy, and it's just what I've always liked to shoot and photograph. And if I ever went anywhere, I always go north. And so just to show people just how beautiful state that Georgia is, and how diverse it is, it's pretty cool.
And let me add real fast, I alluded to this earlier, but another thing that we are excited about with the show is that almost all of the songs for the entire season were provided by Georgia musicians. So it's a showcase of the Georgia music scene, as well as Georgia's scenery. And so we have everything from blues to classical to bluegrass to rock, even like a tiny touch of hip hop. So we've got a little bit of everything. And we use the music to drive the narrative of the show. So if Jason and I are excited, we're melancholy, we're anxious, if there's drama happening, what have you, the music helps to kind of convey that to the audience. And plus, it allows us to use the show and the audience that'll watch it, exposure for all of these incredibly talented musicians that live all over the state. So we're really excited about that music being heard as well.
And another thing, one thing we both went in wanting is it to be a true reality. It's not scripted. I don't trip and fall on purpose and cut to commercial. There's everything that happens is authentic. And we stayed true to ourselves. And so that was another good aspect. We have full control of the show,
Wow.
so we don't have anyone saying, telling us what to do or anything. And so that's another great aspect of it.
Yeah. No producer saying, "Hey, Jason, get into this canoe and travel down a river, with all the thousands of dollars of gear on you." Right?
We did that.
That doesn't happen.
We did that, but it was by choice. We weren't told that it would make for good TV. We certainly had a lot of adventures. Things didn't always go perfectly according to plan, but that's life. And that's the show. And we hope that it resonates with the audience because, there's a lot of quote unquote reality TV out there nowadays, but a lot of it's contrived. Nothing in this show is contrived. It's truly, we went to these places, we photographed what we found, and we documented our experiences when we were there. And that's what made the entire season. And so it was a lot of fun, and we're looking forward to doing it again.
My inability to walk in the Okefenokee Swamp is true.
No spoiler alerts.
No.
Very cool. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on to the show. It was an absolute honor to speak with you. Again, my sincere congratulations to you on a successful show, and I very much look forward to watching season 1 and then hearing more about season 2. You guys have an open invitation to the show, so when season 2 starts coming together, please let me know. I'd love to have you guys come back onto the show and tell us more about your adventures.
Thank you, Bill.
Thanks, man. Appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Well, that wraps it up for this episode. You can find Studio C41 at studio.c41 on Instagram, studio_C41 on Twitter for my latest shenanigans there, and as well as our website, studioc41.net. All right, guys. Well, that wraps it up for this episode. So until the next one, shoot some film. Dang it.